Well, that Rolling Stone article not too long ago is a perfect example of that. How they were saying, "Oh, they can't get in to the hospital, these gunshot victims, because of the the woogie boogie and all this." And it was like, no, and who is it? I think it was Jimmy Dore pointed out. Said, "What these guys? This was supposed to be in August in Oklahoma, and these guys are all wearing like
parkas,
these big parkas and stuff like." I've been to Oklahoma in the summertime, and ain't nobody wearing big coats. So yeah,
no.
but so many people. The big media, mainstream media, picked up on that too. And
I don't know that anybody's done a retraction of that story, a legit retraction. I don't know. Even the actual article, they didn't do a retraction. What they call it, Jimmy Dore talked about this too. It wasn't a retraction. They did a correction or an update. An update. Yeah, this article has now been updated. Not they didn't retract their initial bullshit. They just edited, or they just made the. Come on, that's ridiculous. I mean, if we go back to Julian Assange, a huge example that I like to bring up all the time is the Paul Manafort story. Luke Harding wrote an article for The Guardian that to this day is still on their website, which is amazing. It's not really amazing, but it's kind of amazing to me, about Paul Manafort visiting Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy 3 times. The Ecuadorian embassy, when Julian Assange was there, was probably the most surveilled building on planet Earth. First of all, London is an incredibly surveilled city, period. It's one of the most surveilled cities on planet Earth. And then add to the fact that Julian Assange is in the Ecuadorian embassy. There were cameras everywhere. There were people in cars. I mean, we have video evidence of this. People in cars, like sitting around outside, watching the building. And there's no video evidence. There's no witnesses. There's nothing that ever showed that Paul Manafort ever visited Julian Assange. He never signed in. None of the employees could say that he had ever been there. But Luke Harding wrote this whole ass article where he even invented, this is my favorite part, he even invented a whole ass outfit. I think it was like a pastel colored polo and sandy colored chinos. Like, he invented a whole ass outfit for Paul Manafort to wear to go visit Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy, and just made it up. Like, it's a completely fabricated story based on sources say, and it's still up on the Guardian's website to this day. It's crazy.
And the only people that are pointing this out are like you and like the Convo Couch, Slow News Day, Fred Hampton Leftist. All the independent media has been decrying all this stuff for months, and well before the mainstream media even catches up to it. So, and every once in a while, you'll see like, they'll report on something that Aaron Mate did last year, or Max Blumenthal did last year, or you did last year, or something like that. And it's all of a sudden it's news because it's okay to report that now.
Well, that's the Yahoo article, the newest Yahoo article on Julian Assange and the fact that the CIA had been plotting to kidnap or murder him. Max Blumenthal wrote that article in May of last year, or May of 2020. So May of last year. But that happens, and that's it. And really, it's not even just Max. It's the UC Global case. When that story broke about UC Global and the fact that Sheldon Adelson and the CIA were working with UC Global and David Morales, who was the owner of UC Global at the time, to spy on Julian Assange. They tried to steal his baby's diaper. Like, all of this stuff had come out. But now all of a sudden they're trying to pretend like this is, and I'll take it. Listen, I'll take it. I'll take the mainstream coverage. I will absolutely 100% take it. I will use it to my advantage. I will try to get new eyes on the story and get people interested in what's happening to Julian Assange. But this is not like some breaking news. This is, we've long since known that the CIA has been doing this stuff to Julian Assange for a very long time.
Well, and if journalists and advocates like you have known this for a while, surely mainstream media has known this the whole time. So why sit on this and wait till now when they have the resources? They probably knew this last year at the same time that Max and you and everybody else did. So why wait till now? Did. Is it safe to do it now?
Jimmy, maybe that's part of it. I honestly don't know. And I hate to be skeptical of it, but I am skeptical of everything. It makes me hesitant. I'm constantly questioning everything anything that happens. I'm wary of it. So I don't know what the agenda is, because Michael Isikoff has an agenda. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's an establishment guy. He's an establishment journalist. Not to say that he hasn't done great work, but he's not somebody that I trust. So it's, you have to be hesitant and skeptical and wonder what the agenda is in covering it now. I will definitely use it. The fact that it's in Yahoo is a huge advantage to Assange activists because we can use that to get new eyes on it. People who wouldn't ordinarily pay attention to it, and the only thing that they listen to is mainstream sources. And if you bring them a gray zone article, they're like, oh, the gray zone, yeah, they work for Russia. Well, if I bring you Yahoo, then maybe you'll pay attention. So I'll use it, but I'm still going to remain skeptical about what the purpose of this coming out now is.
Right. I mean, I'm with you. I'm like, the more ears that this gets, the more eyes and ears that this gets to now, the better. But it's just like, I'm with
I kind of wonder if they're gauging public opinion. Like if this is, if they're trying to get a feel for where the general consensus is on the Assange situation. I don't know. I wish I knew. But you're right. Of course, Michael Isikoff knew that this was going down a year ago. Rachel Maddow has known. Chris Cuomo has known. They all know. Again, Max Blumenthal wrote this article in May of 2020. You know that they read Max Blumenthal. They all do.
I think. With all the, even though it is independent media that has been putting all this news on blast, I think now with that constant, because with Action for Assange, you have a whole show dedicated to this, so which is great, and I think that constant repetition of getting that information out, getting it out, it hits more and more ears, and then at the same time, you have you see Biden and the administration, the popularity is starting to weaken too, and people are starting to think, well, Trump was bad, and I'm glad that Biden's president, but things are starting to looking about the same as where Trump was.
Right.
Not everybody's saying that. You still got your shit-lib cheerleaders that are still holding them up somehow, but you're starting to see more and more people fall by the wayside and say, hey, wait a minute, and maybe more and more people are starting to, see your shows and see more independent news and are thinking,
well, that's the biggest. Yes, that's the biggest hurdle that we've had, is that there's been essentially an entire media blackout. Mainstream media very rarely even mentions Julian Assange, and when they do, it's to trash him covertly. They always lead with something terrible and then kind of hem and haw about the First Amendment or whatever. It's always terrible coverage. It's never legitimate, and it's very rare to even get coverage, in general. So like the reason why we do the vigil, and we do it twice a week, and we have done so for, I don't even know, like 120 weeks or something now. I don't remember what week we're on. But that's the reason why, because there is no really consistent reporting on it, and there's such a media blackout that's most of the people that I meet are either grossly misinformed about who Julian Assange is, why he's in prison, what he did, whatever, or they have no idea who Julian Assange is. They've never heard of him. You would be amazed at the number of people who have just never heard of Julian Assange at all. And that's, to me, that's scary, because what's happening to him is a direct reflection of what's coming for all of us, and people don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, nobody's putting two and two together. Like, oh, everybody thinks that Julian Assange is just some sort of like a freedom fighter or something, and he's just one of many that's in jail. It's like, well, no, he's a journalist, and he's probably the most, he's exposed the biggest scars of the American government since I've been alive. Anyway, even at least since Watergate. To me. Yeah.
I mean, I realize that I'm biased because of what I do, but to me, he is the most consequential journalist of all time. And I don't even think it's close. Right. Not only did he revolutionize the way journalism is done. I mean, everybody now knows about secure drop boxes. Everybody uses them. All major outlets have a secure drop box for leaks and stories and all of that stuff. Well, Julian Assange is the one. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks are the ones that invented that, created that, put that out there. So they revolutionized the way journalism is done, period. But then he has broken more stories and exposed more corruption, not just of the United States government, but of corporations, governments around the world. I mean, he has exposed and broken more stories than I would venture to say all other journalists combined. And he's never gotten it wrong. And that's, to me, that's the big thing, is that this dude has never had to retract a single word that he has ever published in 15 years. That's impressive.
It's probably because of that, because he is Teflon in that respect, that they are punishing him and keeping him locked away, because they know he's done no wrong as far as journalism is concerned. And if he's let free to do more damage, he's gonna, because he knows how to do it. He knows how to get this information from people and to get it out. Whereas like back in the day, in the Daniel Ellsberg days, it was all hard copies and stuff like that, and go-betweens and that sort of thing. A lot of danger in that respect, but kind of the same way here, but instead of paper, we were talking digital, but it's more or less the same kind of cloak and dagger thing going on,
Yeah. And he's the fact that he's been able to break so many stories and never get it wrong and never expose a source, because people will say, oh, but Chelsea Manning got in trouble. That had nothing to do with Julian Assange. She was in a chat conversation with Adrian Lamo, and she confessed to him that she had given the stuff to Julian Assange, and that's how she got caught. That had nothing to do with Julian Assange. So to be able to release that kind of information at that level, I mean, this is a guy who has broken stuff like the Guantanamo Bay files, the Iraq and Afghanistan war logs, all kinds of corporate corruption, environmental corruption. He's leaked stuff on Russia. He's leaked, just amazing stories, and never, ever, ever getting it wrong. And there's not a single news outlet on planet Earth that has that kind of record.